Student Group Financial and Asset Tracking Training. I'm Steph, the VU Clubs Officer, and in this training we'll discuss funding for your student group, how to track your income, expenses and assets, and how to complete the audit. Next, we're going to talk about how the club's program is funded and how your club is funded. Our first topic is about the Student Services and Amenities Fee, which we also refer to as SAP. The club's program and other non-academic programs at the university are funded through the SAP fee payment that all students pay to the university. The club's program uses this funding to provide administrative assistance, training programs, and event and planning training programs, financial training, as well as providing further opportunities to enhance knowledge and skills, as well as hosting networking opportunities for club committee members. We provide resources and tools such as access to on-campus spaces, access to equipment, a club bank account, design software access, and free printing. We also provide funding towards club events and activities. Student groups can use their funding for a variety of expenses that support their operations, events, and overall mission. While specific spending rules apply, common allowable expenses include expenses for event and activity costs, such as those listed here. Marketing and promotion requirements. Community and engagement outreach. Conferences and professional development workshops. Creative or other workshop initiatives. Clubs need to be aware that there are some things that you are not allowed to use for club funding on, especially if it comes from SAP revenue. SAP revenue cannot be used to support a political party or to support the election of a person or Commonwealth or state or territory parliament or local government body. Club funding cannot be used to provide material benefit to any member of the club for their services in managing the club. So this means you cannot pay anyone who has helped out with the club. You can't give them gift cards for helping out. These are purely volunteer positions. Club funding also cannot be used on any kinds of personal expenses. Don't get caught out with these common misuses of club funding. No revenue the club gains can be used towards these expenses. Some subscription membership services may be required to manage your club more effectively, but you should consider whether they are essential and worth the cost. We'll now talk about the types of funding that your student groups are eligible for. Internal funding types for the VU Clubs program are listed below in the tables. The first is the affiliation funds. The amount that you're eligible for is dependent on the membership numbers of your group. We also offer clubs bonus funds when they attend our OFest events. You get $50 per campus for attending an OFest event. The other thing we offer are grants. We have special event funding grants for up to $2,000 each round, and we offer up to 4 rounds each year. Other sources of funding for your club can come via membership fees, ticketed events, or fundraising raffles, other grants that the university offer, or looking for external sponsorships or donations. So as a club, how do you apply for your funding? When you need funding for your events and activities, you apply for this via the Events and Activities Registration Form. If your club requires other club expenses, such as merchandise, banners, equipment, etc., you can email your request to the club's email. For the special event funding grants, you need to fill in the special event funding grant application form. When seeking funding outside of the university, for sponsorships, you can contact potential sponsors, provide draft agreements to the clubs, and seek approval. External grants you can apply for via the prescribed process, and those funds will be paid directly to your club's bank account. For membership tickets, etc., will be paid directly into your club's bank account by giving out your account BSB and account number. Just a reminder that when you do want to seek out sponsorships or other kind of grants, you need to follow the application guidelines for these. We have provided your club with a financial asset and tracking spreadsheet. This spreadsheet should be used to track all income, expenses, and assets that the club owns. So how do you record your income and expenses? Refer to your Commonwealth Bank account transactions. Did you know that you can export your club bank account transactions into an Excel spreadsheet? Let me show you how on the next slide. With your data now downloaded, you can sort it out into two sheets of income and expenses. By doing this, you can easily copy and paste the data into the financial spreadsheet. Let's see how to do that. Now that we have our data downloaded, we need to select it. We need to make it into a table. Now we can filter and feed for it. So the easiest way to filter it by finding the expenses first, which have a minus sign in front of them. So, okay, now we can copy all this into our expenses sheet. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to remove these minus signs, put them into the financial spreadsheet like this, and you won't calculate them. You need to put in whole numbers. So to do that, I'm just going to select this. I'm going to do a replace. I'm going to replace, find the minus sign and replace with nothing. And replace all. And that's done. And now these numbers. Now we will go back to our data and we will select all. And to filter out the total, the income, sorry, we will filter it by W greater than 0. and that's going to give us all our income. So now we can copy this and we put into our income tab. There we go. Now we neatly have our expenses of our income. And we can just take this information and pop it into the financial spreadsheet. We have provided your club with the financial and asset tracking spreadsheet. This spreadsheet should be used to track all income and expenses and assets that the club owns. The spreadsheet has been structured so you can categorize income and expenses related to specific events and projects. Other income, such as bonus funding, membership fees, merch sales, and expenses such as club merch, stationery, subscriptions, etc., can be reported in the Finance tab. Any other income related to a specific event or project will have its own tab. Let's take a closer look in the next slide. So this is the new financial spreadsheet that we will have you use this year. We would have sent this out to you with your audit pass last year. And in that email, we would have asked you to enter your club's name, the start date of this new spreadsheet, as well as what the bank balance of the previous audit was. And then you can start recording income and expenses. Now this first sheet, the finances spreadsheet, you will record income and expenses that are not related to a particular event. So, for example, any affiliation funds that you apply for that might be to buy merchandise or gifts or other things to help operate your club will go into this spreadsheet here. Things like membership fees, money from fundraisers, donations, or interest from your club account or anything like that. For the expenses in this particular tab, you will record expenses that are not related to a particular event. So they might be one of these categories here. Now, when you are doing an event, when you're going to record specific income for that event. So when you apply for your affiliation funds for a particular event, you'll pop that in one of the registered event tabs, and then you also record the expenses related to that event. And each time you do a new event, you will open up a new tab. So back in the first tab, you'll see up here that you've got all the income for the events, all the expenses for the events will all be adding up accordingly. And at the very end, when you're ready to hand in your audit, your total bank balance should match what's in your account. So everything is, as usual, all formulated for you. So you just need to record the income and the expenses. Some helpful tips to keep good financial records are to record transactions chronologically. Enter the income and expenses in order from the oldest to the most recent date to maintain clear and organised records. Number and store receipt date or receipt on each one a number. Note the corresponding receipt number next to each expense in your spreadsheet. And finally, provide context for each expense. Clearly indicate which club activity or requirement each expense relates to. This ensures transparency and helps the auditors verify the funds are used appropriately. Items you have purchased with club funding or items that have been donated to the club will become assets of your club. You need to keep a track of your club's assets on tab 2 of the financial spreadsheet. You need to record the quantity of the asset, a description, where the asset is being held and the reason for purchase, and keep the spreadsheet up to date with the quantity that remains. It is important to keep an up-to-date record of assets, as these need to be reviewed and passed on when re-affiliation occurs. As items are dispersed, used, or expired, please keep the spreadsheet up to date to reflect this. We'll now go through the club audit process. Auditing is to make sure that everyone sticks to the principles of integrity and honesty, and to prevent any potential fraud, corruption, misconduct, or other red flags. To do that, every student group should have an internal control mechanism to prevent such things. Firstly, you need to be transparent in terms of any purchasing process you do in your student group. For example, when you want to buy something, you should shop around, look at different suppliers, and compare products or service prices, as well as quality. Look at reviews, obtain competitive quotes before you decide which supplier you want to pick. There needs to be a rational and conscious decision-making process in terms of why you choose that supplier, so that you can demonstrate from your end that you are sticking to the principles of integrity and honesty. You also need to keep clear, detailed, and valid records of your income and expenses. A good way to do this is to form the habit of scanning or taking photos of all your receipts and invoices right after each purchase, and save them in relevant folders instead of trying to find them all right before you do the annual audit. Another important risk control measure is to keep an eye out for red flags. For example, when you receive an invoice for the product or service you purchase, you need to check the invoice to see if there is any missing information or mistakes. If you notice any sloppy invoice, you need to follow up with the supplier to have this corrected. From your end, you must never manipulate any invoice because that's an act of fraud. We'll talk more about what are valid invoices or receipts like later in this training. You also need to be very careful about giving gifts or contracts to friends or family because that's a conflict of interest. That's why you need to be transparent about the purchase process and not intentionally or unintentionally give privilege to your family or friends. Also, sometimes when you negotiate with suppliers, they might promise to give you a secret commission if you pick them. This is also a red flag because receiving a secret commission is an act of corruption. Just remember, as a representative of your student group, you must always stick to the principle of integrity and honesty. Let's talk about the auditing period. The audit is to be submitted by November 1st each year. We will start accepting audit submissions from October 1st if you want to get in early. The Treasurer will prepare the audit and send through the documents via email or share via their Club G Drive. The different auditing period for student groups are: for newly affiliated clubs, your start date will be from the date your club was affiliated. You will start with a zero balance, as your club will not be carrying over any funds from the previous year. You should record all income and expenses from the start date up until the date you submit for audit. Once you enter the amounts in the beginning balance, income, cash income, and expenses, the spreadsheet will calculate your bank account balance, cash balance, and total funds the club has. Please do use the spreadsheet we have provided. Using this spreadsheet helps my team complete the audits with ease, as we have about 40 of them to do. We've made this sheet simple so it's easy for you to follow. You can easily add more rows if you need to. For re-affiliated clubs who completed an audit the year prior, the start date of your audit should already be recorded on the financial spreadsheet we sent the club when you successfully passed your previous audit. This will be reflected on the bank account beginning balance date. You should record all income and expenses from the start date up until the date you submit your audit. Providing proof of purchase. Let's talk more about tax invoices that you need to submit. A valid tax invoice needs to include the following information. It must have the words tax invoice on it, and also the retailer's Australian business number or ABN number. The retailer's name, the price of the items or service you purchased, the date, and the GST amount. GST is optional if the business GST turnover is below $75,000. So the invoice from some small businesses may not have GST on it. And lastly, if the purchase is more than $1,000, then it also needs to have the purchaser's name and address. This is an example of a Coles tax invoice with all the information we just mentioned. so this is considered a valid tax invoice. Usually when you purchase something online, you will receive a digital tax invoice sent to you via email. If you receive a paper copy of the receipt or invoice, you will either need to scan it or take a photo of it. Some small businesses also use handwritten invoices, and that's also acceptable. Just remember that you need to take a photo and ensure you store these copies somewhere safe. We suggest you make a folder in your Club G Drive and store all the copies of tax invoices and receipts there. One proof of purchase that we don't accept is an EFTPOS docket, as this is not a valid invoice for auditing purposes. This is because it doesn't have all the information we require. We accept invoices in different forms. Usually when you purchase something online, you'll receive a digital tax invoice which you can email us directly. If your purchase occurred in person and you received a paper copy of the invoice, you will need to scan it and email it to us. There are a lot of free scanner apps you can download on your phone to scan the invoices. Some small businesses also use handwritten invoices, and that's also acceptable. Just remember you also need to scan it and send it to us. For the membership fee you've collected, we also accept membership receipts. There are also websites where you can generate receipts for free, if you didn't use the paper version receipt book. However, we do not accept EFTPOS dockets as a valid invoice for audit purposes because it doesn't have all the information we require. When it's time to submit the audit, here's what you need to submit, which is due on November 1st. You need to submit your completed financial spreadsheet with up-to-date income, expenses, and assets, as well as copies of proof of purchases. You can submit your audit and proof of purchases either by sharing via your club's Google Drive or attached to an email. Tips to help you improve your audit: number your receipts in the same order as listed in the expenses column. For each expense, leave a note about the activity it relates to if it's not clear in the description from the account statement. And if you group income or expenses together, make this clear in the notes column next to the data. So how do we review your audit? The club's team will review your audit by checking the items listed on the screen. If we are satisfied with your audit and there are no red flags, we will email you an audit pass opinion along with your new financial record spreadsheet to be used for the next auditing period. We will update the dates and the balance on this new financial spreadsheet. If we have any concerns about your audit submission, we will meet with you to discuss this. If we're not satisfied with the audit and we determine the club has failed the audit, a few outcomes could occur. These might be that the club is disaffiliated and not permitted to reaffiliate the next year. The executive members will be dismissed from their role and not able to hold a position in a student group for 12 months. Or the club may be unable to apply or be eligible to receive any funding in the next club's term. The club will have to pay out of pocket for any misappropriated funds owed to the university. Other outcomes may occur based on the seriousness of the breach and the opinion of the club's officer and the university. To help you keep track of your finances and assets and complete the club audit, we have a number of resources available to assist you. These can be found in the club's G Drive resource folder in folder number 12. We now have a quiz for you to test your knowledge about this training. Please scan the QR code and complete the quiz. Thank you for completing this training. If you have any questions, please email us at clubs@bu.edu.au.